A group of U.S. congressmen have written a letter to Secretary of State Rex Tillerson arguing that a freeze on construction of new factories and warehouses is counterproductive to the peace process, particularly because Israelis and Palestinians at these factories work side by side, and West Bank factories are an economic boom to the region, that they hire Palestinian workers with above-average salaries. The Trump administration reportedly told the Netanyahu government that it must stop all West Bank construction that is not directly adjacent to an existing housing complex. The four congressmen who signed the letter are Republicans, but other businessmen and political leaders who run factories or businesses or have interests in the West Bank have also been reaching out to the Trump White House asking them to revise the position. Joining me in studio is Erez Czadok. Erez is the CEO of Aviv Fund Management. They are a Tel Aviv investment firm that works hard to get U.S. companies to invest in the West Bank and expand manufacturing opportunities. Thanks so much for being with us in studio. I want to ask, the letter talks about the need for peaceful coexistence, but this is land that the Palestinians want for themselves in the future two-state solution. Why should these factories grow? Why shouldn't they be forced to close and shutter and leave with anticipation of them being a one-day Palestinian state?
Because no matter what the diplomatic solution will be, in the meanwhile, people have to make a living. Now, these factories are the lifeline of the Palestinians. You have to understand that 50,000 Palestinians, that's the approximate number, working for the Israeli factories in Judea and Samaria. Now, they get paid between 4 to 5 times more than Palestinians that's working for Palestinian factories.
And why is that? Because of Israeli labor law that they fall under?
Yes, the minimum wages according to the Israeli law. And, they get about $1 billion at least every year to the Palestinian economy. That money goes to private consumption and economic growth. Actually, there is no living in Judea and Samaria for the Palestinians without these factories. Now, Israel is the only country that creates private working places for Palestinians. Not other countries doing it. Neither is the Palestinian Authority, by the way. So we have to promote it. We have to encourage more and more factories, more and more industrial areas in Judea and Samaria, because, before
the UN, just months ago, they passed a resolution condemning any growth like this. The U.S. is opposed to it as well, saying it goes against peace. The idea that one day you're going to...
Yeah, I didn't see any one working place created by the UN. Show me one working place that's created by the UN. They are just talking. But without these factories, those 50,000 Palestinians will be unemployed, by the way, and not only those 50,000 Palestinians, because there are other circles of Palestinians working to provide these rich workers, their good food services. So there are other circles that join these factories. There is no economy in Judea and Samaria for the Arabs without the Israeli industrial areas. You have to understand that.
Erez, where would you say to people who say that this is giving a lifeline to Palestinian families? It gives them money to live, but it destroys the hope for the Palestinian people, it destroys the hope for their children. You build factories, you expand the factories, you build more roads, you build more housing complexes. Eventually, the entire West Bank itself, Judea and Samaria, is overcome by settlers and factories that the children will suffer the consequences.
Well, first of all, I'm against Palestinian state, but even for those that
but the U.S. isn't. They still support it as a two-state solution.
I'm not sure that Trump administration support it. But if it does, even though if you want two-state solution, okay, what's happening in the meanwhile? People have to make a living. Now, you have to understand that in these factories, in the last 10, 15 years, nothing bad happened. No one was stabbed or shot. Outside the industrial areas, of course, a lot of bad things happened. In these industrial areas, nothing happened. And the reason is because the Palestinian workers there, they are getting equal rights, equal opportunities.
Can you say equal opportunities?
Yes, in most of the factories, they get equal opportunities, equal rights. And you know what? I've been to the soda stream factory in Mishor Adumim before they moved to the Negev, to the south of Israel. And the chief operating officer that gave me the tour the first time I was there his name was Muhammad Barhum, an Arab guy from a village next to Jerusalem, and he was the chief operating officer managing a lot of Jews under him. So if you are good, if you do your job, if you have qualifications, you can be a manager. And we have Arabs there, Israeli Arabs owning factories in Judea and Samaria. We have common ownership of Palestinian and Israelis owning factories. Not many, but those that want to do it, those that have the qualifications, they can do it. Yeah.
Erez, thank you so much for being here and sitting with us on Daily Dose. Appreciate your perspective and your analysis on this topic. Thank you so much for being here.